All right. Sorry about that, everyone. All right. Awesome. Looks like it is working now. And we will get started in just a moment. Just doing some last minute setup here. All right, awesome. Thanks, Christina, Samuel, and Matthew for the comments. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that the Facebook Live is in the Facebook group specifically. So give me just 1 second and then we will get started here. Thanks for your patience. All right, I know everyone can see the screen. Can everyone hear me as well? Just want to make sure, and then we will be good to get started. Yeah, sorry, Matthew. I just posted on the actual event page with a link, so hopefully others who are coming now can find it more easily. But I'll try to monitor the Facebook page as well. But I will. Okay, yeah, Bryce. Sorry about that. Hopefully it's a little bit easier now. So we are going to go ahead and get started. So thanks everyone for joining, and awesome. Thanks, Samuel. Great. Looks like we are all good to go. So welcome everyone to our very first Biblingo Demo and webinar. We're going to try and do these every week in this Facebook group because kind of each week we'll have new people join who have either come across Biblingo recently or recently signed up or something like that. And so kind of the goal for these webinars, there's a few. First, it's just for people who are interested or maybe recently signed up to just get a quick demo on how to get started with the program. But it's also for more experienced users. Maybe as questions arise as you continue using the program, you can join one of these webinars and ask your questions to just dive in a little bit deeper. Yeah, Matthew, making history, absolutely. And so occasionally with these webinars, we will also demo new features. And so that is happening today. I will demo the Bible reading module. It has been completed and has not yet been released to the public. So this is a little bit of a sneak peek, but it will be released to the public pretty quickly. So pretty soon, I'm sorry. So just be on the lookout for that. So yeah, with all of that being said, thanks again for joining, and feel free to ask questions in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them kind of as they come up, and if I miss them, I'll try to return to them at the end where we'll have more of kind of a Q&A. And if I miss it then, feel free to ask it again, and yeah, I'll do my best to cover all of them. So now I'm going to dive into the demo, and so I'm just going to run through basically kind of everything from start to finish, and I'll try and do it as quickly as I can so that we have more time to maybe dive into things that you all specifically wanted to see or ask questions about. So yeah, so let's get started. So as you can see, this is the main screen of Biblingo when you sign in, and just a few things to note if you're just getting started with the program. If you don't yet know the alphabet, we do have resources for that to help you get started. Currently, our alphabet video lessons are on our YouTube channel, so you should be able to find them on YouTube. And then we do have exercises that accompany those videos within the app to help you learn the alphabet more effectively. And pretty soon, in the next few weeks, we'll actually be migrating the alphabet video lessons into the app, so everything's all in one place, and you'll actually be able to sign up for like a free alphabet account, so you can access those within the app for free. So that's just something to note. If you're getting started and you don't know the alphabet, definitely start there before you dive into the lessons. When you do first sign in, a couple of things to note. You can click this icon in the top right corner to log out, change your password, or view your profile. So when you sign in for the first time, you'll actually get a pop-up to complete your profile. But if you ever want to change anything, you can click that and edit your profile. Probably most significantly, you'll want to note you can change your preferred pronunciation types here. And you can also update your plan here. Another thing to note is that in the bottom right corner, you should see a little widget. If you click that, you can do several things. You can chat with our team, and you can also find some kind of frequently asked question type articles here for quicker answers. So just a few logistical things there. And then now we'll dive into the program a little bit more. So the first thing we'll look at is the language learning module. And as you can see, the language learning module has currently, we have 26 lessons that are broken into 4 sub-lessons each. And eventually we will release another 26 lessons to make it 52 total. And we'll hopefully be rolling those out in batches pretty soon and have them completed over the next few months. Your first time coming here, you will get this kind of getting started welcome video from Kevin. And then you can dive into the first lesson. So we'll look at lesson 1.1. I imagine you guys can't hear the audio through the app, but I just heard this word pronounced, and so if you're actually in the app, you'll hear that. And so the first time you start a lesson, again, you'll get another introduction video, but this one is what we call grammar explanation videos. And so these videos kind of unpack the grammar topics that you'll be learning and practicing throughout the lesson. So be sure to watch those because they introduce some pretty important topics. And then on the left-hand side here, you can kind of see the workflow that you're going to be progressing through. So you start with vocabulary and you go through 3 learning stages. And then you get to grammar and you'll go through the same 3 learning stages there. And then the final act is just kind of the last shot at some additional practice. So in the vocabulary, we start in the association stage where you have several elements that you're associating together to learn more effectively. You have the text of the vocab word, you have an image that represents the vocab word, and then, like I said, you'll also hear audio automatically. And you're meant to associate all of those elements together to kind of create a more memorable memory of this word. You do have some other options here. You can click the gloss if you want to see an English gloss, maybe if you need some more clarification on what the image is meant to represent. You can click level view to return to see all the lessons. Let me go back here. And then you can also change the speed of the audio if you want to hear it at a slower speed. So then what you'll do is progress through all the vocab words for this sub-lesson until you reach the passive stage. At this point, you'll see a familiar image or video, and now you have multiple choice options to choose the correct word that you associated with this image or video. Again, you can listen to the audio for all of the answers, and then when you select the correct answer, you'll hear the audio again. So then once you progress through all the vocab words, again, I'm trying to move pretty quickly, you'll get to the active stage. Now at this point, you see a familiar image or video, and now it's time to actually practice typing. And so we do have some instructions on how to download Greek and Hebrew keyboards and how to use those. If you have additional questions about that, feel free to ask. The other thing I would note is that a good way to practice typing, if it's new to you, is actually to go to the flashcard decks select preset decks, and then you can select the alphabet lessons. Even if you already know the alphabet, it's a great way to practice typing with just 1 or 2 letters at a time. If you do want to bypass typing altogether, you can select the word bank and select words from the word bank rather than typing, and it's still a good way to practice what we call like active learning, where you have to produce the language yourself. But we do encourage you to, at least at some point, really strive to actually type the correct answers. So then you would progress through all the vocab words in the active stage. After you complete the vocab, you would continue to the grammar, and you go through the same learning stages. So association, you're associating the text with an image or video. And again, I heard the audio, but you didn't, but you'll hear the audio in the app, and you can slow it down. You have a gloss as well. And then something new here are what we call grammar symbols. And so basically the idea of these grammar symbols, they're used to communicate aspects of grammar that's really difficult to communicate through the video itself. So things like verb tense, or if there's a definite article or something like that, is really difficult to communicate in the video. And so we wanted to kind of stay on the track of using visuals, and so that's what these grammar symbols are for. So this shows you what the subject is. This second symbol shows you the verb tense. And you can learn more about the grammar symbols in this grammar symbol glossary. But another really important thing is, if you remember the introduction video, that will explain the grammar symbols that you'll be introduced to in the particular lesson. So make sure you watch those as well. So again, you'll progress through all the grammar practice sentences in the association stage. Then you'll continue to the passive stage, where you have multiple choice, and then you'll progress to the active stage, where you can type it or use the word bank again. And then again, the final act is just an additional opportunity to practice, and it'll just kind of throw a sentence that you haven't seen at you to keep you on your toes. So that is the gist of the language learning module. So I will try and keep moving pretty quickly here to the flashcard module. So the first thing we can look at are the preset decks. Now, I mentioned we have the alphabet lesson decks here, and they accompany the alphabet video lessons that you can find again on YouTube, but pretty soon in the next few weeks we'll be migrating them into the actual app. And so again, this is a great way to learn the alphabet or to practice typing. And as you can see, it's a good way to practice typing individual letters or a few letters, as well as accents and things like that. I know I'm kind of favoring Greek here, but you can imagine all the same with Hebrew. So we'll go back to the decks, and you can see the Biblingo Lessons. So these are just the vocab that we just saw in lesson 1.1, and then we have them for all the lessons, just a quick way to review lesson vocab without having to go through the grammar. And then the other interesting thing you'll see here is we actually have vocab that accompanies a popular textbook here. There's actually a new textbook by Robert Plummer, beginning with New Testament Greek, and we have his vocab from that book organized into the chapters. So, if you're using some resources outside of Biblingo, we're striving to create flashcard decks that can accompany those. And so, in the near future, be on the lookout for additional textbooks, popular textbooks, to be here as well. And the last thing to kind of quickly note about the flashcard decks is they work in a very similar way as the vocab and the language learning modules, where you progress through those 3 learning stages. We can also look at words that need practice. And so basically these are flashcard decks that Biblingo automatically generates for you based on the words that you're learning and practicing really all throughout the app, whether it be the language learning module, the flashcard module, or even the Bible reading module. And so basically we use a spaced repetition algorithm that keeps track of the words that you're learning well, the words that you're struggling with, etc. And the app generates these flashcard decks to basically give you vocab that you need to practice the most right now. So this is just a demo account, so you don't see much going on here for me. And then the last thing, and it's probably new to everyone, is custom decks. And so currently this is linked to the Bible reading module, and which we'll look at very soon. And basically, you can create custom flashcard decks with any words that you want from the biblical text. And you can group them as well. So this is just an example of how you might do it. Let's say you're reading through the book of 1 John in Greek in the Bible reading module. You can create a group for all 1 John vocabulary that you want to practice, and then when you click within it, you have particular decks. So you can see I created a custom deck for 1 John chapter 1. And as I progress, I would probably have chapters for all of 1 John, and you can just see I selected just some words here from the first chapter of 1 John. So in the future, we will kind of create other ways to create custom decks that aren't tied directly to the Bible reading module. Maybe creating custom decks from the language learning lessons if you want to group the vocab differently, or even importing your own words from like a spreadsheet or something like that. But currently it's linked to the Bible reading module. So let's see, we have a question from Christina here. Do the spaced vocab decks disappear after a certain length of time if you don't complete them, or do they continue adding up? They do continue adding up. So they shouldn't go away unless you complete them. And so if you're not completing them regularly, then you should see decks starting to kind of add up here, is my understanding of it. So yeah, I think that covers most of the bases for those modules that we've had out for a little while. So the last thing to note, sorry about that, is the Q&A. So if we go back to the language learning module very quickly, anytime in the active stage, there's this little link here that says ask a question. And this differs from this little chat. So the chat is kind of for general support. The ask a question is for questions related to like the content, like the Greek and Hebrew content. Maybe like why is the form of the word like this, or why is there an accent here, or why is it pronounced like that? You can ask a question for more content related things here. And then those will show up in your Q&A, the questions as well as our answers that we provide for you. So that's what you can review there. All right, so now for the moment that you all may have been waiting for, we can dive into the Bible reading module. So when we click the Bible reading module, it will open up to basically the last text that you were reading. And so for me, again, it's 1 John, as we saw in the custom decks. A couple things to note here. We're currently on the reading tab. You can select books from the drop-down, chapters and verses from the drop-down, so pretty intuitive to navigate. Something that you might notice pretty immediately is the colors. A lot of blue, and then this random word is yellow. And so we have this little information box here that explains what's going on here. Basically, the words are color-coded based on where they are in the spaced repetition algorithm. And so these are kind of the stages of that. Stage 1 is you haven't actually begun learning any sense of the word. Stage 2 is you have begun learning at least one sense of the word. And then stage 3 is you've begun learning all senses of a word, and then it'll be white if you have archived all the senses of the word. And I'll dive in a second what we mean by senses and archived and all of that. But just note the point is to be able to kind of immediately look at any chapter of the Bible and have an idea of how well you know it, how well you know the words in that chapter. And that's what's going on with this percentage here. This percentage is what percent of the words in this chapter have entered the algorithm in basically stages 2 through 4. So you can see, you might remember that this was one of our words from lesson 1.1, and so that means I have begun learning one sense of the word. If the color is distracting, you can toggle it off so that you can just read normally. And along with these percentages and the colors, you can click Go to Bible Index in the top left here, and it'll open all the books of the Bible, or currently of the New Testament because we're on Greek, and it sorts them by the percentage of words you have learned in that book. And you can do the same thing with chapters. And so the idea is If you've worked through maybe some of the language learning lessons, you've acquired some vocabulary and grammar skills, and you're ready to dive into the biblical text, you can actually come here and you can go to this chapters tab, and the chapter to start with that you're going to have the easiest time working through based on the words that you know. And of course, by the time you get there, you'll have much higher percentages than 1 and 2%. So we'll go back to the Bible and look at a couple other things. So when I click a word, it'll open the dictionary pane, and this will help us get an idea of what I meant by the senses. Christina, there's this little, Christina just asked, what did you click to toggle the colors? Next to the percentage, there's just this little toggle feature here that you can click on and off. You just have to click it. So when the dictionary pane opens, you can see basically part of our philosophy behind Biblingo is we don't teach words as words broadly, like kind of their broadest dictionary entry. We try to teach them according to senses. So, any word can have various senses. And so you can see here, this word can mean eye, or it can mean something a little different sense of sight, or it can even mean something more broad like understanding. And so the reason we do that is it's not super helpful to learn just a simple gloss for eye, because you might come across this word in a text where something like understanding makes a lot more sense. It looks like Bryce just commented, did the video just cut off for everyone? If maybe a few people could comment and let me know if you're still seeing the video. On my end, it looks good, but it'd be good to hear from others to make sure everyone can still see. All right, it looks like Christina still sees it. Sorry, Bryce, it may just be a connection thing. Let me know if it resolves for you or not. But if it's working from my end, then it's being recorded, and you should be able to see maybe some of the parts that you missed in the recording. So I'm going to keep pressing on. So that's what we mean by senses. So this sense is taught in lesson 1.1, and so that's why this is yellow. If you remember yellow, I've begun learning at least one sense of the word. So this is the only sense of the word that I have started learning, and that's why it's yellow. Now, if I had started learning all 3 of these senses, then it would be green. And so that's what we mean by the senses. Now, what we mean by archive is if maybe you studied Greek before, or you're learning it elsewhere, or you just feel like you really solidified this sense, you can actually just archive it rather than waiting for it to move all the way through the spaced repetition algorithm. Like if you don't care to see it in your words that need practice deck, you can actually just click archive, and it'll archive, and basically that just means you know this and you don't really need to see it immediately in your words that need practice deck. If you feel that way for all of the senses of the word, you can click archive all, and it'll archive all of them, meaning you know pretty well all of these senses and you don't really need to see it in your words that need practice deck anytime soon. And so that's what the third stage is. It means that you've begun learning all senses of the word. So I'll go ahead and archive all of these so you can see that it should change to white, because I know or have archived all senses of the word. Sorry, that's stage 4. So now I know this word, all the senses of it, and so now it's white. All right, so that's what's going on here in the various senses, and within each of these senses you can see some resources. We have audio and image. One thing to keep in mind is that obviously a dictionary for the entire Bible is massive, and so we're not going to have audio and images for every single word yet, but we do have a pretty lofty goal of doing that, and progressing towards it constantly. But for now, we will have as many images and audio as we can for all the senses. You will have a gloss for all of them, and you'll also have a semantic domain, and this will become important in just a moment. Now, if you do want to add a particular sense to a custom deck, that's how you can do it here. Click Add Custom Deck. You can see, if you remember from before, I had a deck group for 1 John and one for the chapter, which for some reason is not showing here. But if you want to create a new one, you can just type it in and click Create and add it. So that's how you'll add it to your custom decks. The last thing on this tab to note is this little voting feature. And basically the idea for this is if you feel strongly that a particular sense of this word is the best sense for the context of the passage that you're currently reading, you can vote for it. So you can see there's a voting feature. And so this is just a way for Biblingo users to kind of work together and identify what you think is the best sense for this particular passage. So there's a couple votes for this sense of this word for this particular passage. Another feature, you can click verses and see all the verses in the New Testament that include this word. And that is the gist of the dictionary. Now the last quick feature for the Bible reading module. Oh, down here you can see grammatical information. Sorry about that. But if we click the search tab here, you can do some neat searches in the Bible. So you can search based on a Greek or Hebrew word. You can search based on an English gloss. Or you can search, if you remember the semantic domains, you can search based on those to see words or semantic domains that are pretty similar. And then you can always review your search history if you want to go back and find a search that you did before. So yeah, that is kind of the gist of the Bible reading module. Like I said, it's brand new. We have not released it to the public yet, but we will very, very soon. And we also have some exciting new features we'll be adding to it over the next weeks and months as well. And so we'll keep everyone updated on that. So that concludes the demo. It was a little bit longer than I intended. Maybe I was a little bit too excited about the Bible reading module, but now I would love to basically just open it up to any questions that I may have missed or that anyone has at this point. And it can be really about anything related to Biblingo, any of the features, any of the modules, anything like that. So I'll be checking out the comments. I'll kind of scroll through to see if I missed any. Otherwise, you can go ahead and ask some questions as I'm reading through. Yeah, so Sean says he's a big fan of the Ling Q style immersion study. Yeah, it makes it a game to change those colors. So the Ling Q style that he's referring to, I believe, is basically the way that you're able to see the percentages and the colors based on words that you know. That's a similar feature that Ling Q uses. It's a language learning app for more modern languages. And yeah, we're really excited about it. We think it's a great way to basically bridge the gap from language acquisition, like you might get in the language learning module, and reading the biblical text. A lot of times, students who kind of learn the basic grammar and vocab and are ready to kind of start with the biblical text just don't really know where to start. And so this can give you really not just a place to start, but a systematic way to work through the whole Bible in the original languages. Let's see. Hey, Nick, do you have a PDF of keyboard overlay for typing in Greek and Hebrew? Matthew, we do have a little bit. We have a PDF of a little bit of an explanation for typing in Greek and Hebrew, and then we also have recommended keyboards to download and install. We recommend the ones produced by Tyndale House, and they also have resources for basically not just how to download and install their keyboards, but how to use them. Is that what you have in mind? Recommended keyboards and how to use them, essentially? Let me know, Matthew, and I can send you that. Sean, plans for Septuagint eventually. Yeah, we have big plans for adding more texts in the original languages in Greek and Hebrew. It's really kind of a matter of time and resources as well as demand. So it's really just the more that people request things, the more likely it'll be that we get them out sooner. But yeah, there's kind of a lot of things we have in our plans, but it's just a matter of time, resources, and demand. So, but we would love to get the Septuagint for sure. All right, Matthew, I can just drop a link in the comments for the Tyndale House. And so this link I'm going to put in the comments has the page itself has several links, one for downloading and installing, but also there's a how to write, basically how to use them. So I will put those in the comments. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, Matthew, great question. Can I share about the founding of Biblingo, our heart for languages, and how Biblingo is going so far in its early stages? How I can pray for you? Great question. Man, it's a big question too, so I'll try to be quick. I would really, I have to start with my other co-founder, Kevin Grosso, because he is kind of the mastermind and the dreamer behind Biblingo. The short story is Kevin was kind of training to work in Bible translation as a translation consultant. So he was studying linguistics and Bible translation. And long story short, he just kind of felt that that there were some inherent challenges in the Bible translation process, and basically not resources that were readily available to Bible translators who were on the ground throughout the world. And so he just started dreaming about how to create resources that were more accessible, so that, indigenous translators didn't have to, travel far and pay a ton of money to learn the biblical languages. And so that's kind of how it started. He eventually went to Israel and studied the biblical languages through some of the more immersive style resources there. And then his idea was basically to try and take that method of learning the biblical languages and make it more available through a software program. So that's how it started. Kevin, this all started just out of a passion for making the biblical languages more accessible and easier to learn. I have a heart for the languages. Really, I kind of studied them just personally for my own benefit, as well as just the benefit of those in kind of my communities and Bible studies. Never really had big intentions of, doing formal ministry or academia. And so the point of that is just that we believe that the biblical languages can be beneficial for anyone. And so how Biblingo is going so far in its early stages, wow, incredible, because of people like you, because of people who have supported us and encouraged us and told us what they loved and what they hated and what they wanted and all of these things. We are an early stage organization, and so there are definitely challenges. Again, just timing and resources. We wish that those weren't obstacles, so that we could release all the features that everyone is requesting. But all in all, it's going incredibly well. We've been so encouraged by the feedback that we've gotten. And so, you can just pray for, you can pray for us, you can pray for, endurance and making the right decisions and all of that. But all in all, we just would ask that you pray for the impact of Biblingo in the world, for translators, for those in ministry, for students, for teachers, and really for anyone who wants to dive a little bit deeper into their study of God's Word. So thank you for that question, Matthew. I hope that was enough of an answer. Ben, based upon the progression of the language learning module, what books of the respective testaments will be able to read first? I wonder if there's anyone watching who can provide more insight than me on that. Maybe if you've worked through some of the lessons, you could give an idea of that. But my assumption is that the Hebrew Bible, you're going to see, Jonah, would probably be toward the top of the list as you're working through the language learning module. In the New Testament, you're going to probably see 1 John. But yeah, I would love if anyone who's watching has kind of worked through some of the lessons. If you could, if you have. Sorry, there are some beta testers who do have access to the Bible reading module, so maybe they could provide some insight to that. Sean, to be able to compare Septuagint, absolutely. We really hope to introduce the Septuagint. Matthew, question about the platform. Homeschool dad, wondering if I can share my account with my kids, or do you have a family subscription program? Great question. I would recommend not sharing, just because, as you've seen, Biblingo actually really tracks a lot of data and personalizes the program for you. And so we do plan to roll out some things like family plans and things like that. Again, just a matter of time. But what I would like for you to do is email me, and I'm going to put my personal email in the chat. Shoot me an email about that, and we will make it work for you. But yeah, at some point we will formalize kind of a family plan, because we absolutely would love for children to be using our platform. We think it's intuitive enough for them. Yeah, Sean, John, usually where one starts for New Testament. Yeah, so the reason I would say something like First John is because the way that the Bible reading module works is based on percentage of words, and so a shorter book like First, Second, Third John is going to not just have simpler vocab, but a higher percentage of simple vocab, if that makes sense. But yeah, the Gospel of John 2, you can see, well, these are all 0%, but yeah, some of the shorter books might pop up first. So yeah, Becky, Jonah, Ruth, and Genesis are early assigned in an OT project. Yeah. All right. You know, that's something that we can do on our end is we can actually give users a better idea of, you know, if they work through all of the lessons or something like that, what would these percentages look like? So I'm going to make a note to do that, and I can actually post it in this Facebook group so that everyone has a better idea of what those percentages will look like after you work through the language learning lessons. I think that'd be really helpful. Do we have any other questions, or did I miss any questions? A lot of comments have come in, so I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. I did just think about one thing that I missed is, or that I didn't mention, is those grammar explanation videos at the beginning of the lessons. They're pretty dense, and we've actually worked on that, kind of trimmed them down, made them shorter. But we do have, we're creating lesson guides that basically take what you learn in those videos and kind of unpack them more, define more of the terms, things like that. And currently we don't have lesson guides for all the lessons, but we're working on that. We're working on them more quickly now than we have been. So we're kind of planning to complete, you know, a few a week and release those as we go. But we have at least lesson guides for at least lessons 1 through 5 of both Greek and Hebrew, and then we have a few more for Greek available. So definitely check out those lesson guides if you want to dive deeper into the lessons. Yeah, Sean, thank you, and Christina, thank you both for joining and for your great questions and feedback. I'll hang around for a little bit longer in case other questions come in. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for coming. Thanks for joining the Facebook group. Please, you know, participate in the group, not just this webinar, but participate in the Facebook group. If you haven't already, introduce yourself, talk a little bit about why you joined, why you're learning the languages, where you're at in the languages, so that everyone can kind of encourage you. But yeah, I'll stick around a little bit longer to answer any other questions that come in. But that's kind of all I had on my agenda. So feel free to log out if you don't have any other questions or don't want to wait for the questions. Becky, where are you putting the lesson guides? Are you making them available in the app? Currently, they're just in a Google Drive folder. I will share that in the comments. We will make them available in the app soon. We're prioritizing that as well. Of course, it helps to have everything in one place, but currently they're just in a Google Drive folder, which I'll share. Also, if you do want to access them in the app, you can click the widget and you can scroll down, and there's a link to the lesson guides here. But I just dropped the Google Drive folder in the comments. Thanks, Samuel. Yeah, the Bible reading module, we will make it available very soon. Very soon. All right. I'll wait a couple more minutes for any final questions. A recording of this Facebook Live will be available in the Facebook group if you want to watch it again or if you missed part of it. Yep, no problem, Becky. It's definitely not ideal that they are not available directly in the app. But they will be soon. All right, any last questions coming in here? Feel free to throw a curveball at me if you want. And I know I just approved some requests to join the group, so if you're kind of trickling in because you just got accepted into the group, I apologize. I was occupied doing this and did not keep an eye on people requesting to join the group. So if you did miss it, a recording will be available pretty shortly after we finish this Facebook Live. So I apologize for that. But if you did come in late and you want to catch it, just the recording will be available in the Facebook group. But yeah, I'm going to give it maybe like 30 more seconds because there's still some people watching. So if you have any final questions, go ahead and ask those in the comments. Otherwise, we will. Yeah, sorry about that. Awesome. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks for joining. Christina, great question. Are there any plans to have audio files of chapters of the Bible being read or do readings in the Facebook group? Yes, we've actually talked about this recently, adding audio for entire chapters. We do want to add audio to each individual word, but that's actually going to be much harder than just kind of uploading one big file for an entire chapter. So we do plan to do that, and we've been talking about it, and so we're kind of in the process of figuring out what that's going to take from kind of a time and resource perspective. But we know that would be extremely helpful. We know that there are already there's some audio out there available, and so it's kind of a question of if we would be able to use what already exists or if we have to produce our own, but we definitely want to add that because we think that would be a huge asset. But again, we definitely want to do it with all of the pronunciation options, and so it's just a matter of what it would take from a resource standpoint. But yeah, and then to your sub question, do readings in the Facebook group. Yeah, in the meantime, if anyone can go to the Facebook group and start their own Facebook Live and just start reading, or you can get a group together. Within the group, you can kind of recruit some people and say, hey, did anyone want to just read together from the Greek text or the Hebrew text every Friday morning or Saturday morning or Wednesday afternoon. We definitely want the group to be all about that, just creating additional resources and accountability and support. Great question, Christina. And all these things that I keep saying, yeah, it's a matter of time and resources. We do plan to do it. We'll do our best to keep you updated about all these updates and where we're at in the process, kind of all around, whether it be via email or in this Facebook group or things like that. So, all right. Well, I'll give it another 30 seconds for last questions to trickle in. But yeah, just wanted to thank everyone again for watching and contributing. Like I said, I plan to do these, try and do them every week. So whether it be for new users or members, but also, yeah, if you're just working through the app and some questions come up really about the app or Greek and Hebrew or whatever else, feel free to join these down the road as well. All right, I'm going to log off, but thanks again, everyone, for joining and contributing. And yeah, I hope it was helpful. Thanks, everyone.